Remember the late 90s, the golden age of VHS tapes and weekend trips to Blockbuster. You'd wander the aisles, hoping the new release you wanted was still on the shelf. And then came the mad dash to return it on time, or else, late fees. We've all been there. For Reed Hastings, the co-founder of Netflix, one of those late fees was for the movie Apollo 13. It cost him $40. But instead of just being annoyed, that $40 fine sparked an idea. A radical idea that would change everything. Picture a small office in Los Gatos, California. Inside, Hastings and his team are locked in a debate. The air is thick with tension and excitement. Should they stick with DVDs, the proven winner, or bet everything on this new, unproven thing called the Internet? Some argued DVDs would rule for decades. Others saw the future in broadband, a future where movies could be delivered instantly. It was a massive gamble. One wrong move, and their small company would be history. But Hastings, quietly and decisively, made the call: Netflix would pivot to online streaming. That single, almost unnoticeable decision was moment zero, the click that would eventually change how the entire world watches. At the time, nobody outside that room knew what was happening. Employees exchanged nervous looks. Investors were deeply skeptical, warning that the Internet wasn't ready, that speeds were too slow, and that people just wouldn't get it. But Hastings held his ground, convinced that the future belonged to those who dared to innovate. The team got to work, weeks stretched into months of grueling effort. They were building the very foundation of streaming from scratch. Software was rewritten, algorithms were developed, and content delivery systems were tested again and again. The early days were a nightmare. Internet speeds were painfully slow. Servers crashed constantly. That dreaded buffering wheel became a familiar enemy for the first testers. And getting movies to stream was only half the battle. They needed content. The big Hollywood studios were terrified of piracy. Why would they hand over their blockbuster films to a tiny online startup? Hastings negotiated relentlessly, trying to convince them of his vision. Every night, he'd review the team's progress, tweaking strategies, sometimes even coding alongside his engineers. Every small victory, like a stream that didn't crash, was a sign they were on the right path. Every failure was a hard-learned lesson. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. Netflix launched its first streaming pilot, inviting a small group of subscribers to test it out. The reaction was astonishment. The freedom to watch movies instantly, without leaving home, was revolutionary. Feedback poured in. Users wanted more. They wanted personalized recommendations, the ability to pause on one device and resume on another, and a library that never stopped growing. The team worked around the clock, refining the interface, perfecting the algorithms, and squashing bugs. All of this frenetic activity was powered by that one foundational decision to embrace streaming. The giant rental stores barely even noticed. They were confident physical media would reign supreme. They had no idea their world was about to be turned upside down. By 2007, Netflix was ready. It officially opened its streaming service to the public, taking a huge leap into the unknown. The growth was explosive, far faster than anyone had dared to dream. Subscribers flocked to the platform, captivated by the ability to watch what they wanted, when they wanted. The studios started to come around, realizing that digital platforms could reach audiences on a global scale. But Netflix didn't stop there. It took another audacious step, producing its own original content. Critics scoffed. a former DVD rental company making its own TV shows. It seemed impossible, but the Moment Zero decision to prioritize streaming had paved the way for these bold moves. The world began to change, first subtly, then all at once. People stopped going to rental stores. The term binge-watching entered our vocabulary. We were no longer chained to TV schedules. Viewing became personal, flexible, and global. In the years that followed, Netflix expanded across Europe, Asia, and South America, and Blockbuster, the once unbeatable giant, failed to adapt and eventually filed for bankruptcy. Hastings' $40 late fee had triggered a chain reaction that completely dismantled an entire industry. Internet providers had to upgrade their infrastructure just to keep up with the demand for streaming. Competitors like Hulu and Amazon Prime emerged, but Netflix's head start gave it a powerful advantage. Every new original series, every technological breakthrough, was built upon the bedrock of that Moment Zero. The ripple effects went far beyond just watching movies. It changed startup culture, investor behavior, and how quickly new technologies are adopted. Inside Netflix, the human story was just as incredible. Engineers, producers, and designers worked under immense pressure, driven by the feeling that they were building something that had never existed before. Hastings fostered a culture that celebrated risk-taking and resilience. Failures weren't just expected, they were seen as invaluable learning opportunities. Every server crash, every tough negotiation, was a stepping stone toward mastering this new frontier. And it all traced back to one quiet decision in a small office years earlier. This pivot created a massive cultural shift. We, the audience, were now in control. We demanded to watch our shows whenever and wherever we wanted. Netflix originals like House of Cards and Stranger Things raised the bar for television, forcing traditional networks to scramble and rethink their entire models. The very concept of appointment viewing began to fade into history. The entire entertainment ecosystem, from marketing to tech, was transformed. All because of that one click. Financially, the impact was staggering. Netflix's valuation skyrocketed, turning it into a multi-billion-dollar global enterprise. Internet bandwidth usage surged. An entire industry of companies sprang up just to support the streaming ecosystem. One small decision had catalyzed a global revolution. From Los Angeles to Lagos, Tokyo to Toronto, billions of people now consume content digitally. What seems so normal to us today, watching a movie on a tablet or a show on a smart TV, is the direct result of that one courageous choice. Every click, every binge session, every viral hit can be traced back to that single Moment Zero. The story of Netflix is a powerful reminder that transformative change often starts small. It can happen quietly, almost invisibly, yet its impact can reshape societies and industries. It shows how foresight, courage, and a willingness to take calculated risks can create a ripple effect that touches billions of lives. From a humble office in California to total global dominance, one choice became the defining moment for an entire generation of entertainment. The future was rewritten by that click, forever changing how we experience stories. And it all started with a late fee for Apollo 13. Today, Netflix faces new challenges, new competitors, and ever-changing audience tastes. But its foundation, built on that pivotal Moment Zero, remains unshakable. Every new algorithm, every award-winning original, stands on the shoulders of that initial leap of faith. The story of Netflix reminds us that history isn't just made in grand, sweeping events. It's also shaped by the quiet, decisive, and courageous choices made in ordinary moments. One click, one decision, one vision can, quite literally, change the world. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into the moments that shaped our world. See you in the next one.